Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back. Let's get into it.
We start with breaking news tonight. Police are investigating comments made by performers Bob Vylan and Kneecap at Glastonbury. The rap punk duo Bob Vylan led crowds at the festival's West Holt stage in chants of Free, Free Palestine and Death, Death to the IDF, before Irish rap trio Kneecap suggested fans start a riot outside one member of the band's upcoming court appearance. Well, Emma Birchley has been following this story for us and joins us from the newsroom. Emma, what more can you tell us?
Yes, police this evening are assessing videos of what was seen on the West Holts stage at Glastonbury. Two acts who are both being looked at. The first of those, Bob Vylan, that is a rap punk duo with those chants of Free, Free Palestine and Death, Death to the IDF. So they are being looked at, but also the rap trio Kneecap. Now, there had been calls in advance of the festival for them to be left off the lineup, and during their set at the festival today, they called for fans to riot at an upcoming hearing of one of their members who faces a terror offence. So police looking at the videos there to determine whether an offence has been committed. Now, the BBC has responded to what was shown on the television during that Bob Vylan set. They've described it as deeply offensive, and they've put up a warning on screen, they said at the time, about what they called very strong and discriminatory language, and they made it very clear that they would not be putting that show, that element of the festival, up on iPlayer for other people to watch. Now, there has been a very swift response across the board. The government has put out this statement: we strongly condemn the threatening comments made by Bob Vylan at Glastonbury. The Culture Secretary has spoken to the BBC Director General to seek an urgent explanation about what due diligence it carried out ahead of the Bob Vylan performance, and welcomes the decision not to rebroadcast it on BBC iPlayer. It's been described too by the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch as grotesque. She said it wasn't a protest, it's incitement. And there has been a response too from the Israeli embassy. This is what they've had to say in a statement. The Embassy of Israel in the United Kingdom is deeply disturbed by the inflammatory and hateful rhetoric expressed on stage at the Glastonbury Festival. When such messages are delivered before tens of thousands of festival goers and met with applause, it raises serious concerns about the normalisation of extremist language and the glorification of violence. So the Glastonbury Festival back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
A lot of nations did not invest enough in their own armed forces and basically, without saying it, expected the United States to come to the rescue.
What does Donald Trump's re-election mean for NATO?
I think it is important to say that before the election results were known, I said a number of things, and I will basically repeat them. And that is that the elections in the United States is a thing of the American people. And they have chosen a new president, and that is President Trump. So it's a fact. So I think it is most important now that we focus on how to work with President Trump and his team when they come into office in January 2025. And one of the things that happened during his first term as president was that he was very clear on the fact that he didn't like the fact that a lot of nations in the alliance didn't spend enough money on their own armed forces. And that is the famous 2% discussion. It is not money for someone else. It is money for your own armed forces to become stronger, because the NATO treaty says two things. One is you need to be able to defend yourself. That's Article 3. And then the famous article everybody knows is Article 5, that if some ally is in trouble, then the rest will come to rescue or to help you. Now, if all of us are able to defend ourselves, all the nations are able to defend themselves, then it is much easier to help a nation that is attacked. So his irritation, and he was not the first president irritated about this, that a lot of nations did not invest enough in their own armed forces and basically, without saying it, expected the United States to come to the rescue. And that is a very legitimate irritation to be.
Death, death to the IDF, 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 death, death to the IDF. Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
And what about the Jew?
I'm just trying to add something that, people are waking up, they don't recognize the IDF as a real military force, terrorist state, You gotta remember the history that how did Israel came to be. It was created by the help of Balfour, and there was he made a declaration, Balfour Declaration. If you look into that history, you find out how Israel was made and how it was created by the Zionist group. If you look at my previous videos, you see one of the Iranian, I think he's the president, that he knows that the Zionists had power in the finances and the media and everything like that. So people are waking up and they're realizing that, they're not real military, they're a terrorist group, and they become in position of power. Yeah. And they're trying to link this to anti-Semitism, but he's criticizing the military, not the religion or the faith or the people, So I'll let you guys be the decision. And they're applying something in the flour, like poison, or I don't know what it is, opioid, and they're giving that as a distributing, mixing it with the flour. That's a war crime right there. How much proof do you need? The bombing hospitals, the killing everyone at the waiting point where the people collect the food. How more proof do you need, really? People are looking at the images, then they're saying TikTok is wrong and bad, but in reality, it shows you the truth, Let's get into it.
Of the Muslim world, Turkey, where Erdogan constantly brings up the Palestinian people in his prayers. Well, Turkey, factually speaking, has long trained Israeli pilots on the Konya firing range, allowing Israeli Air Force pilots to use the mountain territory to sharpen their skills at targeting Palestinian homes. And in return, Turkish pilots are also trained at the Nevatim base in occupied Palestine. In fact, Israeli company Dorad Energy supplies electricity directly to Israeli military bases. The second largest shareholder in that Israeli company was Zulu Holdings, headed by Erdogan's close friend Ahmed Zulu. In fact, the Israeli military could not operate without the oil which pumps to it from two Muslim nations. The pipeline which runs from Azerbaijan and through Turkey to Israel provides 40% of Israel's oil. This could have been cut off at any time during the genocide, but it was not. It was also exposed that 4,000 Turkish citizens went into the Israeli military and fought during the Gaza genocide. Where are the legal repercussions for those citizens? At one point, the Turkish government claimed that it cut the $10 billion a year trade it has with the Israeli government. But what was found? That in one day, the supposed trade with Palestine was massively increased. Ships, which supposedly were heading to Egypt, turned off their antennas at the last moment and redirected to the Israeli ports of Ashdod and Haifa. It was even claimed by Turkish journalist Metin Sihan that Erdogan's son, Burak Erdogan, was trading with Israel throughout the genocide through his shipping company. At one point, the Yemeni armed forces even struck a Turkish ship linked to the ruling party, operated by the Orash Shipping, a company owned by Saleh Zeki Sakir, a close associate of Erdogan's party. The Yemeni armed forces warned their brothers in Turkey to stop trading with Israel or they would be struck again. All of this is over a year into the Gaza genocide.
To end the video there, guys, and so now add a little point to this. I already knew about Turkey, the pipeline, the oil pipelines going through Azerbaijan, I believe, to Turkey, Turkey to Israel. There's a pipeline road that connects to Israel, and there's two double face right here. I mean, even the Yemeni people, they warned him that they'll be attacked if they keep helping out the Israelis. End of the day, it's all about money, really. He wouldn't do this otherwise. And there's no true brotherhood no more in the leaderships. I wish it was, but you can just tell if you're allied to the West, you're more sellout. If that makes sense. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He went to the Middle East and he come back with 5.2 trillion or something like that. Come on, really? There's people starving in Gaza. There's people dying in Yemen. And I heard that since Donald Trump came in office, he's been bombing Somalia. Come on, guys. And if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum.